Hi friends, I've been looking forward to starting this video for quite a while. I feel like I've been sticking too much to TBRs lately. And obviously I don't mean my monthly TBR jar TBR because I've never fucking stuck to that once in my entire 2 years on YouTube. But I mean I've been doing a lot of read it or unhaul it videos or spinner wheel videos or just themed vlogs in general, and I have not taken a moment to just read whatever I want in quite some time, and today is my birthday. Right now, it's May 15th. It's my birthday, and so I'm starting a 2.5 week video where I'm just reading whatever the I want. And it feels good, but also it feels scary. I feel like I haven't chosen a book for myself in like a long time. And I'm looking at the stack of books next to me and I don't actually know how I'm supposed to choose a book. I'm already feeling like I want to put all these books onto a spinner wheel or like texting a friend for help or something. But first, let me tell you about the books. I am in Los Angeles now, and I brought, I think, 11 books with me. 11 books that I get to choose from for the next 2.5 weeks that I'm down here in LA. And my options are The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson, God's Junk Drawer by Peter Clines. I'll put the actual book cover up here. When I travel back and forth, I leave the hardcover book covers behind so they don't get all f***ed up while I'm traveling. But this is God's Junk Drawer by Peter Clines. This, I think, is the only book that I know for certain will be read during this video. I have been obsessed with the idea of this book since I found it like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'll tell you more about it later, but it basically has to do with time travel and portals, time fuckery in general, dinosaurs. I think Goodreads said it was some mixture of Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and Jumanji. So like, I need this to be read by my eyeballs immediately. It Lasts Forever and Then It's Over by Anne DeMarkin. Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson. Empire of Shadows by Jacqueline Benson. I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. Agua Viva by Clarice Lispector, and I stand corrected, this also has to be read in the next 2.5 weeks. I've been putting this off for way too long and it's like 80 pages. Found Audio by N.J. Campbell. Red Rising by Pierce Brown. The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. And The Mad Sisters of Essie by Tashin Mehta. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, so those are the 11 books that I have to choose from while I'm down here in LA. I have no idea what to choose first. You know what? Maybe I'll read the first chapter of a few of the books and I'll decide that way. So when you see me next, we will both know what I've actually chosen to read. Okay, love you, bye! Actually, I've already changed my mind. We're gonna read the first line of each book together right now, and I'm gonna choose that way because I'm just procrastinating. And the longer I procrastinate, the longer I will go without reading anything at all. So first up, we're gonna go backwards order from how I just mentioned them because that's how the books are stacked now. Mad Sisters of Essie by Tashin Mehta. The very first line is, "The first time I realize my sister wants to leave, we are in the white world." Okay, I like that. I already know this book is gonna be a fever dream. I already don't have any idea what's going on. What are you talking about? That's a contender. Also, I just really want to read Mad Sisters of Essie. Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. The first line is, "My father was a king and the son of kings." That is boring. This is not going to be my first choice. Red Rising. "I would have lived in peace, but my enemies brought me war." I would have lived in peace, but my enemies brought me... I mean, that's a pretty provocative first line. However, I just read too many romanticies in a row where there was like war involved. I'm gonna leave Red Rising for not the first book, at least. Found Audio by N.J. Campbell. Okay, the first page is a letter. "Dear blank," the name was blanked out. "The strange circumstances that have brought me to write this letter are not few in number, but I would like to apologize in advance if I'm taking any liberties in sending you a rough, unfinished first draft of a nonfiction work in progress." I get the vibes. This is also going to be a weird fever dream thing, but the first line was not very exciting at all. The first line of Agua Viva by Clarice Lispector. Come on, give me a good one. "It's with such profound happiness." That's it. The whole first line, "It's with such profound happiness." I like the idea of profound happiness, but that is not super interesting. I Who Have Never Known Men. I actually read the first few pages of this a few months ago, so I should know what the first line is. "Since I barely venture outside these days, I spend a lot of time in one of the armchairs rereading the books." Not the most exciting. Empire of Shadows by Jacqueline Benson. "Friar Vincent Salaver had never imagined that he would await holy martyrdom while covered in hives." slightly interesting, but also gross. So that's not gonna be our first one. Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson. Is it over? It certainly feels like it's over. Also not that interesting. Okay, so far we only have Mad Sisters on here. It lasts forever and then it's over. The first line is, I lost my left arm today. It came off clean at the shoulder. That's definitely interesting. What do you mean you lost your left arm and it came off clean at the shoulder? That is an interesting first line. God's junk drawer? Okay, so the first page of God's junk drawer is a newspaper article, and it says, authorities continue their search for a family of 3 that went missing during a camping trip this past weekend. That is interesting, but not as interesting as the other 2. Finally, we have the Raven Scholar. Once they made sacrifices here to appease the 8. That's interesting. What sacrifices? Who are the 8? But it's still not as interesting as these 2. So let's figure this out quickly. So we have the first time I realized my sister wants to leave, we are in the white world, versus I lost my left arm today, it came off clean at the shoulder. I do think that this one wins. So the very first book I will be reading for this video. Oh wait, I'm supposed to be reading whatever the f I want to read. Does that mean I'm not supposed to play games like this? No, I want to read whichever book has the best opening line, right? That's fine. I can't cheat. I can't cheat at a game of my own invention. Shut up. My first book that I'm gonna read for this video is It Lasts Forever and Then It's Over by Anne DeMarkin. And it seems like it's gonna be pretty quick. This is a 125 page book. So I'm going for a birthday dinner tonight, and then maybe I'll be able to get through like the whole thing tonight when I get back. The rest of my family goes to sleep early. So this is today's read. Okay, see you soon, bye. Okay, hi, hello. It is now the night after my birthday, and I've only gotten through about 45 pages because I was busy doing birthday stuff. Also, I know that at this point, I think this is the 3rd video referencing my birthday. I promise this is the last one. This is just the one that actually falls over the actual day. But after this, I'll shut the f up. So I went into It Lasts Forever and Then It's Over only knowing what was on the back of the book, which says that our unnamed narrator is undead and adrift in the afterlife. She's forgotten her own name, but she remembers with unbearable longing the place where she knew herself and was known, where she loved and was loved. Are we crooked? Is that better or is that no different? Okay, whatever. So I guess I took that a little bit too literally because I thought that that meant that she was literally adrift out in like outer space in the cosmos, and she was gonna be something of like a ghost recollecting her time on Earth. No. What is actually happening is that she is a zombie, although classic zombie movie situation, the word zombie is never actually used, at least not by page 45. But so far, I kind of hesitate to call this a zombie book, and unless things change drastically in the back half, I don't even really want to shelve it on my horror shelf anymore. I think when I go home, I'm gonna put it into literary general fiction. It's just a literary zombie novella. Less action, more pondering. There's no horror to this. So our unnamed zombie lady is bopping around in her new existence and trying to figure out what this new undead era means for her. She has very few memories of her life before or what the catalyst was for this apocalyptic zombie event. And it seems like they lose more and more memories every day, her and the other zombies that she lives with at this hotel. And the other zombies are weird as hell. They seem to be in various stages of processing what's going on. Some are in denial, some seem really cynical and depressed. One of them seems to be starting a cult. But at the end of the day, this book is about grief. Can I put this up here so I can stop holding it? Can it stay there? Is that good enough? At the end of the day, this book is about grief. Our girl is grieving the end of her life as she knew it, the end of the person that she used to be, the end of the relationship she used to have. The whole 40 pages, there are these little snippets of her waxing poetic about the person that she used to love and how much she misses them, even if she can't remember their name either. She can't remember the person, she can't remember their name, but she can remember the feelings and what it felt like to be loved. And the whole being a zombie thing is just one big, huge grief allegory. On the very first page, she's talking to this abstract you, whoever the person is that she used to be in a relationship with. And she says things like, I miss sleep. I miss you. And she misses sleep because obviously she's a zombie, but who among us hasn't lost sleep because we're missing someone? If you're used to sleeping next to a person, if that's taken away from you via death or separation or what have you, that is going to affect your sleep cycle. There's one scene in the first few pages where she comes across this couple who have snuck out of their post-apocalyptic commune to have sex. Classic teenager zombie apocalypse shit. And she talks about the hunger that comes over her while she's watching this couple, and on the surface level, you're like, yeah, zombie. She's a zombie. She has hunger for flesh. But the way she describes it, you can see it's actually a hunger for their love and their aliveness, their vitality. She is desperate to be able to still be in this place of love and youth and liveliness and lust and pleasure. And then she eats one of them, and she says, after she cuts all the meat off this person's body and she shoves it into her pockets to bring with her, she takes as much meat as she can. She says, I take what I can carry. I do not know why I do this, except I can't let go. Which again is grief. You're taking literal or metaphorical pieces of people with you because you can't move on. You're stuck in this horrible grief cycle. You cannot move forward, so you're carrying around pieces of the people that you loved with you. Metaphorically in grief, literally in zombie teenage flesh eating. She also talks in a way that's clearly alluding to the fact that grief comes in these horrible waves and that anything can trigger it. You never know what's going to remind you of a person until the memory of it is hitting you in the face and you are crying laying on the floor because you smelled fresh cut grass. At one point, she's looking at the naked body of this other zombie, and in the middle of a paragraph, she stops and thinks, I will never see you grow old. There's also this awful point after you've lost someone, and she talks about it on page 34, but there's this awful point after you've lost someone where you look up and you realize that everyone else has continued moving on without you. Life for everyone else has gone on as usual. Somehow the entire world didn't crumble because of the loss of this person that you feel so deeply. Life moves forward. The world doesn't seem to understand what it's lost, and isn't that the most hideous thing? So I think that's all my thoughts for now. Again, it's only been like 40 pages. I do love books that deal with heavier subjects in weirder ways, like zombie symbolizing grief. I'm very interested to see where the grief parallels go in the last half of the book, or the last 2/3 of the book. I have experienced grief within the last year, and it is bringing up some thoughts and some feelings, but at this point they're not necessarily bad. It's just statements that ring true. This is a stunning book, but probably not the best one to have started reading on my birthday, but it is what it is, and I will see you after I have finished the last 60-ish%. I came outside to finish reading and then talk about the book, but I just realized that it's really loud right now and you can hear so many cars in the background, so I'm hoping this is fine. If not, I'm gonna make this a short clip. Oh, that's so loud. Yeah, that's too loud. I'm gonna move inside. Hold on. Okay, we're inside. That's better. That was just way too loud outside. There's so much traffic around my house today. So grief consuming you is the obvious metaphor that I forgot to talk about in the first half of the book. Oh, I finished, by the way. So grief consuming you. You're a zombie. You're this creature that consumes everything around it because that's what grief does. It consumes everything, and because that grief is inside of you, that means it's turning you into something of a zombie. She explores the reality of grief, that you have to keep moving or you risk staying in the same place forever. We see the physical moving of her as a zombie, and we're made to think about the emotional moving through grief. She explores regret. She continues to talk to this abstract you that she can't fully remember as she thinks back to ways in which she wished she lived her life differently. She's thinking of one of the last memories she has left of this person she used to love, and she says, I wish that I had opened my eyes. I wish that I had turned from the window and looked at you in that moment when you were looking at me. This world slipped by me. And then again, I pretended everything would be okay because it seemed impossible to always be saying goodbye to blueberries, to the ocean, to ravens, to pelicans and plovers, to the cormorants, to the sunlight on the living room wall at 4 o'clock, to the sound of you in the next room. And it's just such a succinct and powerful way to talk about grief. And by the end of the book, she finds herself still lost, still trying to figure it out, which is still in line with the grief metaphor. There's no clear end to it. You are always trying to figure out what your new life looks on the other side of it. With this book, I think that what you've experienced in your life is going to affect how much you take away from it. I have experienced quite a lot of grief and different kinds. You might know that my grandma passed away last fall. I've had years where multiple family members have died. In 2016, I lost 6 friends in about 6 weeks. And then obviously there are the types of grief that you're not meant to share on the internet. And this is not some weird grief competition. I'm saying those things so that you understand that I am taking from this book meanings that have to do with my circumstances, my experiences, my situations. If you are a person who's never really experienced grief in your life, I'm very happy for you and I hope that you continue on that path. And I would be really interested to hear your thoughts on this, not having had the same experiences. Grief can make you fucking weird. It is nonsensical. It can make you do things you wouldn't normally do. It can turn you into an unrecognizable version of yourself. So much of it can make you feel like a zombie, like you're trying to navigate your way through a world that feels both familiar and foreign to you now. I have not much else to say about this. It's just a profound little book, and it's a beautiful meditation on grief from the perspective of a zombie. I'm giving it a 4. It's a great book, but it was a horrible choice to be reading over my birthday when I'm already going through multiple existential crises. As for our next book, I put up a poll. I know I'm supposed to be reading whatever the I want, but what I want to do is read all 11 books that I brought. So I put a poll up on Instagram and I'm letting the people vote. The 24 hours aren't up, so what I'm gonna do right now is read whatever the very first response was. Whoever got to me first in that poll, that's what I'm reading. And then after I read that book, I'll read whatever got the most votes after the 24 hours was up. What I'm hoping for, hopefully whatever the first vote is for is a light and airy book, if I even brought any of those. Because after this existential crisis of a book, I just need to have fun. I'm thinking, what did I bring? God's Junk Drawer, Empire of Shadows, maybe The Raven Scholar, but maybe not. I actually don't really know enough about that book to know if it's light and fun and airy. I don't really think I brought any other light and fun and airy books. I think everything else is like heavy and cerebral and shit. Okay, so let's cross our fingers for either God's Junk Drawer or Empire of Shadows. Wow, we got lucky. Lo and behold, the first 2 votes are for Empire of Shadows. Okay, that's upstairs, so I'll go and get it, but what I don't want to happen here is something that happened with another action adventure Indiana Jones, The Mummy type of book that I've read. I read What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez and I loved it, 5 stars. I then read the sequel and I fucking hated it, 2 stars I think. I now pretend that the sequel just doesn't exist. So I am crossing all my fingers and all my toes, hoping that Empire of Shadows is not going to go the way of what did I just say? What the River Knows. Hopefully we have better luck than that. I will let you know when I've started reading it. Goodbye. Hi, I don't know how to talk about this book. I have nothing intelligent to say. I have nothing of value to contribute. I feel for this book what the romantasy heavy girlies feel for the shadow daddies in the dragon books. And by that I mean I'm having such a good f***ing time, and I think for once I am in love with a book boyfriend. Let me synopsize this for you really quickly though. We're following Ellie. She's the only female archivist at this public records office in England, although she's still kind of treated like a secretary by all the shit-ass men who work there with her. Her heart longs to be off on an archaeological dig like her brother who's working in Egypt, but since she's only a woman and this is the late 1800s, that's a no-go for her. So one day she's in her boss's office and she's about to get fired for being arrested for protesting, and she accidentally winds up stealing this strange old artifact, which leads to her being chased through the streets by bad guys, which leads to her getting on a boat and going to what was then called British Honduras, but is now called Belize. And if I had known that that's where the book takes place, I would have brought this to Belize last summer. If you didn't watch the video, I went down there for work, and I didn't mention this in the video, but my boyfriend came back with dengue fever, which was not awesome at all at the time, but now looking back on it, almost a year later, it's hilarious. And by the way, I do suggest still going to Belize. What happened was pretty rare. Everyone should still go to Belize. It's a very beautiful place. Am I crooked? Is that better? Okay, whatever. If I'm crooked, Sorry. So she's in Belize and she needs a guide to help her find this lost city from the map that she stole with the artifact from her boss's office. And through a series of events, she winds up with this man named Adam, who she is already irritated with due to the aforementioned series of events. Adam is a surveyor and a map maker who's been living in Belize for the better part of a decade, I think. So Adam knows his way around. And he could know his way around, if you know what I mean. I fell in love with Adam the first time that we see him because he was nice to a snake. That's apparently all that it takes for me. Be kind to animals and you have my heart, and therefore Adam has my heart. My only qualm is that according to this art on the front of the book, he's blonde, and I don't like or trust blonde men, so that might be an issue. And Ellie and Adam have great chemistry, great banter. I'm a sucker for two smart people bicker fighting. And in a time period when women are supposed to be quiet and reserved, Adam loves that Ellie is loud and spirited and opinionated. So much so that when he sees her resolve flagging during their adventure, he turns to her and he goes, "Fight with me. Tell me I'm wrong. This isn't you. You don't give up. Stand your ground and argue with me." And it's hot. A man who loves a spirited debate? A man who loves a spirited debate? It's hot. But here's the rub. I already know that this is a fade to black book. I know it is, and I could not be sadder about that fact. I love a good steamy scene when it's fun and it's well written, and this is a well written book, so I'm just crossing my fingers that the sequels get a little steamier. So aside from them being fun and hot, it turns out I also really like their personalities. They both have these really strong moral compasses, and they recognize that in the other even when they're actively fighting. So like when they find themselves in a shady situation, neither of them even entertains the concept of leaving the other one behind, and they feel secure in the fact that they're not going to get left behind by the other one, so there's trust from the get-go. They're also both good communicators. There's nothing I hate more in a book than miscommunication, especially when it's just thrown in for something to be happening in the plot, and there's no chance of that happening here. Each of them owns up to their own flaws, they have open and honest communication, and when one of them does up, they own it and they apologize sincerely. It's like for once I am reading a book about two grown functional adults who aren't acting like shitty teenagers. This man also, on his own, without prompting from anyone, understands that Ellie's probably spent most of her life being told what to do by blokes who were half as smart as she was. And he decides that he doesn't want to be another one of those men who believes that he knows better than she does. All of that from a man in 1898. And speaking of the moral compasses, part of why I love Ellie and Adam so much is that they are not treasure hunters. There are other people in this book who believe that the map that Ellie has is some version of a road to El Dorado. So there are people around who are trying to grab this thinking it's a treasure map because all they care about is being rich beyond their wildest dreams. Meanwhile, Ellie and Adam just want to discover something of archaeological significance. They're not looking for gold, they're not looking for ways to get rich or famous. They just want to be a part of history. And speaking of history, there's also evidence that Jacqueline Benson did absolute metric tons of research before she started writing this book. There is so much in here about the history of Belize and the crimes committed against the native populations of Central America in general, and it seems like that is going to play heavily in the last half of the book. I've been straight up getting a decade by decade history in the last few chapters that I've read, which is amazing, and I want more of it. Also, not to toot my own horn, but there are some characters in here who speak Spanish and were not given a translation, but I just hit 400 days on Duolingo, and I'm happy to report that I did understand most of the Spanish phrases they use in the book. I had to Google translate a few of the sentences, but entiendo mucho. I'm trying my best, at least. What else? What else? Is there anything at all of value I can say about this book? Oh, I will say I was feeling the vibes so much that after the first like 150 pages, I put the book down because I had to watch The Mummy immediately. I was entrenched in the vibes. It's been a very The Mummy few days. You've met me at a very The Mummy time in my life. Oh, also I had a really day today at 3 back-to-back doctor's appointments. I promise I'm fine now. I just got some news that I really didn't want to get, and so I took myself to a bookstore and I retail therapied myself, and I want to show you what I got. Also, double don't worry, because I actual therapied myself after all the appointments. So between real therapy and book therapy, I'm good. So I got 3 books at the bookstore today. I got Canon by Paige Lewis. This looks like a book that I would like, even not knowing anything about it. Although I know something about it, but just look first. That is a floating space whale. Unclear how many times I've asked for recommendations that feel like the scene in Treasure Planet when they sail through the pod of outer space whales. But this seems like it might fit what I'm asking for, at least judging by the cover. The synopsis written inside the book doesn't actually help me understand anything at all, so I'm not even going to read it to you. But I saw this and it almost made me want to disrupt the stack of books that I have going here and start this immediately after, but I probably won't do that. I also got A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms by George R.R. Martin. No, I have never read any of the Game of Thrones books, but I did watch A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, the TV show. I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with Dunk. I'm obsessed with Egg. I am so in love with their entire world. Well, not their, I mean, their world is the Game of Thrones world. Their world. Their little insular world. Dunk and Eggs. And I have heard that I can read this without getting to the Game of Thrones books first, but also like I want to read the Game of Thrones books. So if you have read this entire series, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms included, please let me know if I really need to wait until I read all the Song of Ice and Fire books first, or if I can read this first. Tell me what to do. And then lastly, I got a little book called Eradication, a Fable by Jonathan Miles, and it's got this little goat guy on the front. Okay, it turns out balancing your camera and your tripod on a soft mattress is not the way to go, so I'm going to do the rest of this really fast so I can make sure I didn't just break another camera. Can you see this? No! Jesus Christ, that was so stupid. Is that not focusing anymore? Did I just break my camera? Anyway, what I was saying is this book is very small physically. We didn't need to do all that. That was unnecessary. This book is I'm so scared I just did something to my camera. This book is basically about a guy who loses his family and then gets sent to an island to kill like 4,000 goats. But he gets there and he realizes that he can't do it. And I have no idea. I don't know anything else other than that. I don't know. Maybe he becomes king of the goats on his island or something. Okay, I'm now gonna go and check and make sure I didn't just permanently damage another fucking camera. Goodbye. So the back half of Empire of Shadows got so much more fantastical than I thought it was going to, or than the first half was. And obviously I mean that in a positive way. All complimentary. I just had so much fun reading this book. I'm obsessed. And the good news is there are 2 more books out in this series that I already own, and a 4th one comes out I think in January of next year. I love Adam and Allie just as much as I did at the halfway point. Adam continues to be my Brendan Fraser the Mummy dream man, and I would pay good money to be dripping wet in a cave with him discovering new archaeological fields. Dripping wet because we are in a cave and we just forded our way through a river. Keep your mind out of the gutter, or let your mind float around in the gutter. I do actually mean both ways. Listen, a good plot, action, adventure, fun elements, that's really all that I need to get behind a romance, not a romance book, but romance in a book. I'm not opposed to romance in a book. Do I have to explain this? Do you guys understand the difference, right? You understand the difference between me reading like a contemporary romance about 2 people who are like rivals at their accounting firm, each trying to win the same client while trying not to fall in love. Yuck, gross, ew. You understand the difference between that and 2 hot, smart people in the jungle on a treasure hunt, having bad guys chasing them. You throw in a few jaguars and some foreplay in a cave. You understand, there's a difference. There's a difference, right? This is my type. The other is not. I loved their romance so much that at one point, Adam goes, "That's my girl." And I like melted. Who am I? Genuinely, apparently all I need in life in a book is cave foreplay. So, look, I can't really go into a lot of the back half because of spoilers, and I really just want you all to go read this book for yourselves. I will say they go through trials and tribulations, emphasis on the trials. And I will say, again, there were some fantastical elements in here that I was pleasantly surprised by. Also, I love how detailed everything is. A lot of times I will complain about a book not having enough details. If you break a code in the book, but you don't tell us how you broke the code. If you are singing a song with your fellow soldiers to raise their spirits, but you don't tell me the lyrics to the song, I'm pissed. But this book was perfectly detailed. He didn't just pull out a map. He sat down on the deck, rifled through his rucksack, pulled out a waterproof cylinder, and shook loose the map. He didn't just tie his boat up to a tree. He hopped up on the rail, jumped onto the riverbank, and then wrapped the line around this one tree that grows very deep in the rainforest. It makes it very easy to paint a visual storyboard in my head. Other people might find that all those details made the book too long. It is 448 pages. I so thoroughly do not care. I wanted it to be longer. I wanted more details. No, I didn't. Perfect amount of details. I just wanted it to be longer. The single only complaint I think that I have is that Ellie has the tendency to say the word fiddlesticks when she's angry instead of actually swearing. So like she'll stub her toe on a rock and she'll go, "Oh, fiddlesticks," and I fucking hate that. That made me want to cringe out of my own skin and crawl away from my body. I hated that. So hopefully that changes in book 2. But aside from that, I have no complaints except for the fact that I did not bring book 2 and 3 down here with me because I would be immediately jumping through the rest of the series, and that might not make for such a fun video for you, but it is in fact what the I want to be reading and doing right now. I got not only an action adventure jungle romance, I also got an important history lesson and very strong anti-colonialism messages. We got a bit of The Mummy, a bit of Indiana Jones, a bit of The Road to El Dorado, a bit of The Lost City of Z, all of which are things that I love. And I love books. I love books and I love reading and I love having fun while reading books. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know the feeling when you finish a book that reminds you how much fucking fun it can be to read books? I feel like I'm in 4th grade and doing one of those scholastic book fair pizza party things. Did I already say that this was 5 stars? I don't know if I said it out loud. I don't know if I need to say it out loud. 5 stars. This was in fact everything I needed in a book, especially after the existential crisis of it lasts forever and then it's over. I loved that book too. It was just so heavy and I needed to breathe for a moment, and instead I breathed for about 448 moments. Also, was that way too short? I feel like I barely talked about these first 2 books at all. My bad, I guess. I'm sorry if this winds up being like the shortest video of all time. And now I have to pack up so that tomorrow I can go straight from another doctor's appointment right down to San Diego, where I will be cat sitting for like 10 days. But first we have to know what book we are reading next. So I'm gonna go back to that Instagram poll that I put up a few days ago. So we just finished the very first poll answer that someone gave us, and so now we have to see who the actual winner is. I'll be back in 1 second. Let me do some math. Or not math. Let me count. Let me just count on my hands. Okay, so we're going right back to existential crisis. Hi, so now I'm in sunny San Diego. Sunny San Diego, because it's not actually sunny. It's actually pretty cloudy and cold. But that's okay. I was worried I would feel pressure to go outside a bunch and go to the beach and feel the sun on my skin, when what I actually wanted to do was just decompress and be alone for a few days and stay inside like a hermit. And guess what? It's cloudy and cold, so now I just get to stay inside and read and be alone like a hermit. Did I explain this? I'm here babysitting my sister's cat. My sister and her boyfriend are in Japan for like a week and a half, and so I'm here taking care of their new cat, whose name is Ivy Tortellini. I'll insert clips around me right now because I'm not in a room with her, but this is Ivy Tortellini. She's my niece and she hates everyone so far. She was a street cat for like 2 years before she was rescued, so she's still not used to the comforts of indoors and the luxury of having humans around who actually love you. So far she hasn't let me get closer than like 3 feet away from her, and last night she spent about 45 minutes sitting in the bedroom door just staring at me. And the kicker is, I bought her. She was my Christmas present to my sister and her boyfriend. I paid good money to put her in this beautiful home with these beautiful people, and this is how she repays me. Oh my god, I sound like every emotionally abusive parent. I fed you and I put a roof over your head, and therefore you owe me love. You don't owe me anything, Ivy. You don't owe me love. You don't owe me shit. just learn how to be happy and learn how to feel safe, and that's good enough for me. I'm not an emotionally abusive aunt, I promise. Anyway, I have read the first 101 pages of I Who Have Never Known Men. I didn't realize there were no chapters, which makes it really hard to stop reading. There are just 3 long sections, and page 101 isn't even a section break. I just stopped reading in the middle of a paragraph, which feels so wrong. I also realized that I am now reading a book by a Jacqueline, and I just read a book by a Jacqueline, which means absolutely nothing. So I Who Have Never Known Men is about 39 women and 1 young girl, and they live in this bunker underground in a cage guarded by a series of men who rotate in and out. The women don't know why they're there, and the guards never speak to them. They don't know how they got there. They only have vague memories of some apocalyptic event, and then they woke up and they were in the cage. The child, who is never named, she's just referred to as the child, she has no memories from before the cage. She's like anywhere from 12 to 14, they don't know exactly. And her entire life has just been her in this cage, surrounded by women, having absolutely no privacy, even to go to the bathroom. And then suddenly there's an event and the women escape and they're all free. But what does freedom mean, I think, is the direction that we're going in this book. We were really thrown into the thick of it because the whole book is the child's journal when she's an older woman, when she's old and ravaged by cancer and has seemingly been alone for like a very long time, which makes sense because all the other women who are in the cage with her, they're like decades older than her. And so the child has decided to write her story down as this book. She didn't think it was important because her life didn't amount to anything, but if I was a human being, my story was as important as that of King Lear or of Prince Hamlet that William Shakespeare had taken the trouble to relate in detail. She's basically saying, I am no prince, but my life, as every life is important in the minutia of it. She also says, I had come to think that I was different, and now, racked with sobs, I was forced to acknowledge too late, much too late, that I too had loved, that I was capable of suffering, and that I was human after all. And that's just page 3. Both of those quotes were from page 3. And by the way, I've been underlining everything. There's so much underlining that it's almost pointless for me to have been underlining anything at all. I loved, I suffered, I am human, but it's too late. What do you mean? Why is this so fucked up already? The whole book is about, so far, what it means to be human, what your humanity means and what it's worth. And from the get-go, we're being told that there's no way to truly extricate yourself from what it means to be human. And then she goes from there into talking about what I'm choosing to read as the duality of having both mental and physical illness at the same time. Each of those things makes you feel like you could never focus on something else ever again. When both are present, it's especially all-consuming. How are you supposed to deal with mental illness or physical illness, much less both, and still maintain and live a life? Too bad I can't relate to that at all. I am mentally and physically as healthy as an ox, 1,000-year-old ox with mad cow disease. Anyway, she brings us to the beginning of what she remembers from the bunker, and stick with me, it reminds me of Plato's allegory of the cave. My 6th grade English teacher would be so proud of me right now. Mr. Garcia, if you're watching this for any reason, happy belated Pi Day. So Mr. Garcia drilled the concept of Plato's cave into my head over and over and over when I was in his class. And the allegory of the, hold on, I'm gonna Google this so I don't get it wrong. The allegory of the cave uses the story of prisoners chained in a cave to illustrate the effect of education on human nature, contrasting perceived reality, shadows on a wall, with true reality, the world outside the cave. It describes prisoners who mistake shadows for reality and a freed prisoner's painful journey to see the sun, symbolizing the philosopher's journey from ignorance to knowledge and the struggle to accept truth. So essentially, these prisoners, they're chained inside a cave and they see shadows on the wall. And because that's all they've ever seen, they think that that's the real world, these shadows on the wall. Instead of a real bird, they see the shadow of a bird. And then one dude manages to get out and starts to gain knowledge of the real world, but it freaks him out a little bit and it takes him a while to accept the truth of reality and the truth of the world. So the child barely remembers being an actual child. She says multiple times something about how it feels like when she was a teenager in the cage and she starts using her brain for herself for the first time and thinking for herself. That was the moment when she woke up and became a real person for the first time ever. It's like she's a Sims character and she was just dropped into the game at age 12. She tries to learn information from the older women. She's asking questions about sex and love and life, and their response to her is, why do you need to know if you'll never experience any of those things? Plato's prisoners in the cave, right? Not having real knowledge, so you stay in the cave thinking that these shadows are real life. But the child is hungry for knowledge. She wants to acquire information just for the sake of having information. And she starts fantasizing about one of the guards who is guarding the cage, making up stories in her head for the first time because she didn't realize she had the ability to make up stories in her head. And she has this hands-free orgasm, which she calls an eruption. And I know that masturbation is inherently sexual, but I need you to look past the sexual aspect for a second because this actually means so much. She realizes that she can use her brain, her imagination, her creativity to make up stories, to create something new. And this leads her to this point of finding so much pleasure, so much joy using nothing other than her mind. Her life is basically just one endless monotonous day, but she realizes that she can use her brain for joy. And if I can do a little tangent, there's the famous French expression for an orgasm, la petite mort, which translates literally to the little death, which is supposed to be talking about like that blissful post-gasm state where your brain is short-circuiting a little bit. But this thing, this discovery, the little death, is also the death of the child's monotonous life. The death of the part of her life where she's not using her brain. It's the little death of that sad period of her life. It's also the turning point where she first really starts to connect with humanity. Humans right now are greedy and awful, but at the base of it, humans want to create. And she's creating this life in her head through this maladaptive daydreaming because she couldn't have a real life in her old life in the bunker, aka the cave. And also, this book was written originally in French, so I think I'm actually maybe onto something there. So anyways, there's some event and the women escape and they have to figure out how to survive outside of the bunker. And so far, it seems like the book is, like I said, about what it means to be human, what humanity is, what we are at the base of everything when everything is stripped away from us. Everything including your name for the child. She's never given a name. What does it mean to be human when you are caged and nameless? What does it mean to exist when your existence doesn't amount to anything, which is what she thinks her life amounts to, nothing, before she starts writing this book, or her journal, which is the book. Okay, so that was a really detailed look at like the first 6 pages of I Who Have Never Known Men. It's a stunning thing so far. It's really, really easy to understand why this is called a modern classic. I do have a feeling that we're not going to get answers for anything at all. We don't know what the apocalyptic event was. We don't know why these women are being kept in a bunker, in a cage underground. We know literally nothing except the women's day-to-day lives in the present. We know nothing because the women know nothing. So I'm going to hazard a guess and say that because we know that at the end of the book, the child is alone and has been alone for most of her life, we're going to wind up still knowing not much more than we do right now. But I'll let you know tomorrow once I finish the book. So hold on. I'm gonna go sit in my sister's room. The lighting in here is better. Oh, there's her little ugly doll. Hi. So I was right. We learn nothing about the bigger picture, but it feels right. That's the only way this book would work, I think, because it's not about the event. It's about the minutia. That's the entire point. But I still want to know. I wish someone would just like whisper the answers in my ear so that like I could be the only one on the earth who knows. Because I like being confused and I like an ambiguous ending, but I want to know. But that's the whole point. We are forced to share her journey with her. None of us understand what's going on. We don't, she doesn't. We gain hope when she gains hope. We lose hope when she loses hope. We are driven as mad by the lack of answers as she is, as the rest of the women were. The last part of the book reminded me of the discussion that I had during Kayla's live show about the fishermen. We talked a lot on there about the concept of men without women. There were 2 men who'd lost their wives, and in the wake of that, they floundered, they were lost, they ruined their own lives. And then this book is the direct opposite. This is women without men. And they flourished at least as much as they could have in this post-apocalyptic landscape. They had sadness and they had grief and they experienced horrible, horrible things. They weren't happy by any means, but they had a community. They created a real community and they all leaned on each other. There are some really beautiful quotes that I wish I could read to you, but if this has sounded interesting to you so far, I implore you to pick up the book. It's only 200 pages. You could be reading those beautiful quotes 2 hours from now. They're also... Okay, I know I sound crazy, but there's one line in here that could be a reference to Lost. I'm just saying. I know that this book was published like 9 years before Lost first aired, but like, you never know. It could it could still be real. At some point, some book that I read is actually going to have a Lost reference and I will be vindicated. But until then, I will continue to see fake Lost references everywhere I go. So in the last chunk of the book, there was more musing on humanity. She talks throughout the book of wanting knowledge for the sake of knowledge. And the other women ask her what the point is if she can't experience it, but like, what's the point of anything? Everyone is going to wind up as dust, so you need to find your pleasure. You need to find your joys. I'm coming at this from a point of cynical nihilism. What's the fucking point? We all turn dust to dust. We all go back to the earth. What's the point of anything? Just make your time here as fun as possible. Find joy wherever you can, even if that joy is in collecting useless knowledge that doesn't do anything for you. So at the beginning of the book, she realized that she was in fact just as human as all of the other women she was trapped with. She loved, she suffered, she mattered, that whole deal. But by the end of the book, she also winds up feeling like she's just as much a part of this new apocalyptic world. She winds up barren and cancerous, just like the rest of the world that she now lives in is. There is a big question that's talked about in the book by the women, and it's a question I can't tell you about. But if you've read this book and you know what the I'm talking about and you want to talk about it, please come talk with me about it in the comments, because I want to talk about it. But mark it as a spoiler, please, and do that thing where you do a bunch of dots and a lot of line breaks so that you can't actually read it unless you like click into it. Do that so that we're not spoiling anything for anyone. One thing I found out while I was Googling the author after is that she and her family were survivors of the Holocaust because they fled to Morocco. And that shines a whole extra light on the concept of humanity and what it means to have someone strip you of your humanity. What do you need to keep in your heart when you're locked in a literal cage to remind yourself that you're a person and that you matter? Overall, the book was incredible, really, truly a modern classic. I think I'm landing on a 4.5, but that has plenty of space to get higher once I give myself space from the book and I'm able to think about it more. And with that, I'm going to try and go to sleep, but I will probably just stay up thinking about this until sunrise. And then tomorrow we can figure out what I am reading next. Good night. So I have finished 3 books in the first week of this video, which is unheard of for me. It's so rare for me to ever be able to finish 3 books in 1 week. And granted, like 2 of those books were novellas, but still. And those books were a 4, a 5, and then a 4.5. So like maybe I need to be reading whatever the I want more often, I guess. I still have almost 2 weeks of reading for this video, but not really. I'll tell you in a second, not really. But if we're counting the almost 2 weeks, I did some math and I figured out that if I were to aim to read all 11 books that I brought down here with me for this video, if I read all of them, I'd have to read 226 pages per day for the next 13 days, which might sound easy to some of you, but please remember, I am a slow ass reader. I luxuriate in my books. If I'm really vibing with a book and it's a thinker, I can take 2 whole minutes to read just 1 page, especially with all the underlining and note-taking and thought processes and whatnot. Plus, out of those 13 days, 2 of them will be spent showing my boyfriend around San Diego. 1 of them will be spent at a family member's wedding. 1 will be a big family get-together day, and then 2 of those days will be driving back to Oregon. So actually, it's more like I have 7 days left, and there's no way I'm reading 419 pages per day. It's just not gonna happen. So I'm gonna read as many books as I can. And I've accidentally been switching back and forth between short cerebral novellas and big ass fun books. So it feels like it's time for another big ass fun book. I really wanna make sure that I get to God's junk drawer in this video, but I've also been really feeling The Raven Scholar. So I think I'm gonna read the first chapter of each to decide which one I'm gonna read right now. Give me a minute. Nope. Sorry, I changed my mind. I'm so sorry to The Raven Scholar. I'll see you later, I'm sure. But this is too much fun and I really feel like I need fun right now, especially after this heavy ass book. God's junk drawer opens with newspaper articles about this family that go, well, hold on. Let me read you the synopsis. 40 years ago, the Gather family, James, his daughter Beau, and his son Billy, vanished during a whitewater rafting trip and were presumed dead. 5 years later, Billy reappeared on the far side of the world, telling an impossible tale of a primordial valley populated by dinosaurs, aliens, Neanderthals, and androids. Little Billy became the punchline of so very many jokes until he he finally faded from the public eye. Now a group of graduate astronomy students follow their professor, Noah Barnes, up a mountain for what they believe is a simple stargazing trip, but they're about to travel a lot farther than they planned. Noah, the now grown Billy Gather, has finally figured out how to get back to the valley. Accidentally bringing his students along with him, he's confident he can get everyone back home safe and sound. But the valley is a puzzle, one it turns out Noah hasn't figured out, and they'll need to solve it together if there's any chance of making it out alive. And it's being compared to The Lost World and Jurassic Park, and it feels like everything I want to enmesh myself in right now. So it opens up with newspaper articles about the family's disappearance, and then the boys' subsequent reappearance on the other side of the world in Thailand. I know there's gonna be time f***ery in here. I know there's gonna be portals and shit. I know there's gonna be dinosaurs. It feels like this book was made specifically for me. What I'm really hoping for is that this book leans into the crazy. I hope it's not afraid to get as weird as I think it's gonna get. I mean, it says that they land back in time with dinosaurs and androids and aliens. I'm sure there's gonna be metaphors and allusions and parallels and whatever, but right now I don't give a shit. I don't care. Right now I just wanna have a good fucking time. Especially after I just read I Who Have Never Known Men, which is fraught with metaphor. I've said it before, I don't read romance, I don't read mystery thriller, like domestic mystery, the kind of thing that people usually call palate cleansers, romance and like domestic mystery thrillers. I don't read those. So my version of a palate cleanser is boy time travels to Dinosaur Valley and then has to figure out how to time travel back out of it. That's my palate cleanser, and I just want to have fun right now. Okay, so my next one is God's Junk Drawer. It's a little past 2 a.m. I really should probably go to sleep now, but instead I'm going to rip through the first few chapters of this, and I will let you know how it goes before I go to sleep. Ooh, baby, this is what I needed. This is what I needed. Okay, hold on. Come this way. This is what I needed. This is exactly what I needed. Wow. I almost got pulled out of the zone there when the lights turned off on me for whatever reason, but no, you cannot pull me out of the zone. So on Goodreads, this is being compared to The Land of the Lost, Journey to the Center of the Earth, Jurassic Park. Yes, they're right, but I'm also feeling like it's a little bit of a reverse Jumanji. So I should have gone to sleep a while ago. It's been like an hour. I read through page 65. Oops, my bad. I'll go to sleep after this. So like the synopsis says, we have Dr. Noah Barnes, who used to be the little Billy Gather, the kid who got portaled to this dinosaur valley millions of years in the past. Billy Gather, Noah Barnes. So he has spent his whole life trying to stay out of the public eye because the media turned him into a joke. They called him Dino Boy because they thought he was insane, which is a crazy thing to do to a teenager. And he's also been spending his time getting doctorates and studying astrophysics and space-time. All of this to try and figure out how he can travel back to the valley, which he does by like page 25 or 30. They get back there really fast. We're in the real world. We're in our present timeline for like maybe 20 pages. But he does it, and he accidentally brings a handful of his grad students with him, and also this one random guy that I'll tell you about in a second. So here are our characters, and I made a little note. We have Noah/Billy. We have Logan, one of the grad students. He's like this sweet, shy kind of a dude, and he gets compared to Clark Kent. He also is the guy who Olivia, another grad student, is about to break up with because he's too shy and too sweet and too kind, and it's kind of getting on her nerves. There is Kyle, who's the typical douchebag bro-y character, but he's not a dick. He's just obnoxious. There's Sam, who's not really friends with everyone else, and I can't really get a good feel on him yet. We haven't learned a whole lot about him. He's pretty quiet, and it seems like he's lacking some self-confidence. There is Parker, and she's the stereotypical bitchy grad student who will do anything to get ahead no matter who she steps on, that sort of a deal. And then we have Skip, the hiking guide on this field trip, but his real name is Josh, and he's committing some kind of identity fraud because he's not. They hired Skip. Skip is the person they tried to hire as the hiking guide, and they got Josh pretending to be Skip. Unclear what his reasoning or his motives are at this point. And I'm not gonna be very detailed here because it would ruin the movie, but if anyone has seen Cabin in the Woods, the characterizations of everyone is reminding me of the characterizations in Cabin of the Woods. And I don't know if that's gonna come into play here or if that's just like there. Also, I can see books pretty well in my head as it plays like a movie in my head, but my brain is being really uncreative right now because in my head I'm seeing Dr. Noah Barnes as Noah Wiley, specifically when he's playing Dr. Robbie in the Pit. And Sam in my head is Samwell Tarly from Game of Thrones. I can't get a vibe for Logan and Kyle yet because we don't know them well enough, but Kyle is definitely blonde. My brain is confused by Olivia and Parker because in my head, every single Olivia is brunette and every single Parker is blonde, but in the book, those are swapped, and that's f***ing with my imagination a little bit. And Skip, who is actually, okay, let me know if anyone gets this one. Skip, who is actually Josh, has become Josh Rubin from Dropout in my head. So these are the people that I'm seeing as I read this book. So I got 65 pages in and I want to keep going, but I have to attempt to sleep because I have work and obligations to fulfill tomorrow, but I don't want to work or do any obligations. All I want to do is sit here and read the book. I am hooked so fast. Also, if this winds up being a 5, which would mean that at this point in the video, we would have a 4, a 4.5, and 2 5s, I might have to rethink my video schedule for the rest of the year. This is clearly a sign that I need to be carving out more time for me to just be reading what the f I want to read. Okay, so far in present day, we have, well, no, not present, so far with the characters who have time traveled from present day. All that's happened so far is that they've time traveled to the distant past, and then we have the classic freak out scene where Noah tries to explain that we're all in the past now, and then everyone is in denial until they see some concrete evidence. And one piece of concrete evidence is that they see that the stars in the night sky are no longer the stars that they're used to back home, because the night sky was different millions of years ago than it is in 2026. Or in 2023, I think is when the book is set. But like, yeah, they're astrophysics grad students. Of course, the stars in the sky are gonna be the thing that convinces these fucking nerds that were in the past. And speaking of fucking nerds, I'm thrilled that we are with a group of scientists because we get science talk, baby. All I want is science talk. They land in the past and immediately start having conversations about the science behind wormholes and time dilation and Lagrange points, which are apparently points in an orbiting system where things stay put. The gravitational forces between the Earth and the Sun balance out with the centrifugal force of the orbit. So if you get something to one of the points, it stays there. But the points move as the system moves. For example, one of the Lagrange points is on the other side of the Sun, directly across from Earth, but it's always directly across from us. Earth moves around the Sun, and that point moves to keep the same relationship. I'm learning shit. Obviously, I love science, so this is gonna be a plus for me. But if you don't love science, you'll be fine. The science is explained pretty succinctly because of Josh, the one dude there who isn't a scientist, and so he needs all these basic explanations. Josh acts as kind of an exposition point for us, which is nice because it means that we're not just getting like flagrant exposition. And I like Josh because he also appeals to the other kind of nerd in me, the franchise media nerd. We're only 60-something pages in, and he has made like 3 Marvel references so far. And I'm an unapologetic Marvel kid. I'm a Marvel apologist, I would say. And so I hope he keeps it up. And I know, I see lost references everywhere. But with this being a sci-fi book, and with the nature of this being what it is, I feel like this is maybe a real Easter egg and not one I just made up in my head. If there's anywhere that's gonna have an actual lost reference, I feel like it's gonna be this. So the hiking guide that Josh is pretending to be, Skip, there's a glance at his website where it says that his real name is Henry Gale. Henry Gale! There's no way that Peter Clines is a sci-fi nerd and made one of his peripheral not characters be named Henry Gale on accident without it being a Lost reference. There's just no way. So now my eyes are fucking peeled. And if you don't know what I'm talking about and you don't know who Henry Gale and you want to know who he is, go watch Lost. Go fucking watch Lost. Or wait just a little bit more time and then perhaps we can all be watching Lost together. And that's all I have. It's only 60-something pages. That's all I have for you right now. I'm having so much fun and I don't want to sleep and I don't want to perform duties, but I have to. But maybe I can get everything done tomorrow really early so I can dive back into this. Wish me luck. Hey, guess what? I did get all my shit done early and I did dive right back into the book. And now it's 3:15 in the morning and I've read another like 200 pages. I keep reading books this month where I desperately wish that I was making a full spoiler video, and this is absolutely one of those books. So much has happened, and I wish I could just say all of it to you. I wish I could just read you this whole book out loud like a bedtime story, but that's not why we're here. So I'm going to be very careful in making sure I don't spoil anything for you, because you should really fucking read this book. Especially if you are a time fuckery kid like me, you should read this book. I am having so much fun. So first of all, there are deaths. I don't know why I assumed that this would be a book where everyone makes it out unscathed, but I was wrong. There are deaths and they are bloody. There's also the wide spectrum of emotion that would come naturally after witnessing death: grief, fear, shock, guilt, straight up PTSD. And that's interesting because in the first part of the book, when we first landed back in time, it kind of felt like each character was representing a different point of the DABDA grief cycle: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And with the deaths that are happening, it's kind of like it's switched which stage each character is representing. And this is not important. This is not important at all. It's not a huge part of the book. I just thought it was like a fascinating insight into the human brain. I still love the science nerds knowing what the important shit is, knowing the important questions to ask. Every time that I think that I found something wrong with the book, or like found a plot hole, or anytime I have a question about anything, one of the grad students will be like, well, that doesn't make sense. What about X, Y, and Z? And then it'll get explained, and then all of my questions have been answered. Also, I thought this was so funny. You know how in every sci-fi movie, when they're trying to explain time travel or wormholes or whatever, there's always some scientist in the movie who will explain the science to some idiot by folding a piece of paper in half and then poking a pencil through it? They have their own version of poking a hole through a piece of paper. So this is not a spoiler. There's this who's in the valley, basically the Ice Kingdom in Adventure Time, and the actually, I can't say any of that. I can't say any of that. Those are spoilers. Part of that's not a spoiler, but then the rest of that was spoilers, so I can't actually say any of that. So never mind. Read the book. There continue to be Marvel references, and my ass is sitting here every 10 minutes going, I understood that reference, like a fucking idiot. Peter Clines is referencing everything that I love, and it makes me want to go back and read everything that he's ever written. And I've started. I ordered one of his books, but there's no paperbacks left anywhere. There's no like physical copies of the book anywhere. So I had to order it for my Kindle. I don't know if it's getting republished and re-released or something, but I have it on my Kindle now. The book even references David Attenborough, but not really. It's just that I read A Life on Our Planet earlier this month. I cannot believe that that was this month. I read it earlier this month, so all of his info is like really fresh in my head. But so much of that book is about, you know, environmentalism and how important it is to have trees and healthy oceans, because trees and oceans store carbon, which keeps our atmosphere healthy. And in God's junk drawer, they're looking at these massive prehistoric trees, and one of the grad students goes, wow, huge trees. They must be great for carbon storage. And I was like, hey, I understood that reference. I know what that means. I know what it means to be good at carbon storage. There is more time fuckery than I ever could have dreamed of, and more genres than I even knew existed. More genres of time fuckery. And I wish I could tell you specifics here, but I really truly cannot for your sake. I couldn't be happier. I'm just having such a good time. There is character development going on, or at least like the lead up to character development. Samwell Tarly, the grad student who lacked confidence. He was obsessed with the Dino Boy stories as a kid. So in his childhood, he would spend his time daydreaming and imagining that he got whisked away to the valley. And now he's here and he's realizing that it's a lot more dangerous and less fun than he imagined. Imagine like spending your childhood being obsessed with Narnia, and then as an adult you find yourself somehow in Narnia but realizing that it sucks, and also like Mr. Tumnus is trying to eat you and he's 40 feet tall. Or Neverland, if you were obsessed with Peter Pan like I was, imagine winding up in Neverland but realizing that actually all the Lost Boys are velociraptors. It's like a childhood crushing moment. It's kind of sad. As for our main man Noah, we get flashback chapters where we see snippets of the years when he was stuck in the valley with his dad and his sister, which is awesome, and it gives us really good context. But current Noah at 262 pages, I want to punch him in the face. He is so stuck in his ways and his thoughts, and it leads him to making stupid f***ing decisions that put people at risk. And I know it's a product of very layered trauma, and I know he's gonna wind up having a sick character arc, but right now I just want to beat him up a little bit. And that, I think that's all I have for you right now. I'll probably read a little bit more tonight and then keep going tomorrow. I still want to do absolutely nothing except for read this f***ing book. So hopefully I can get a lot done tomorrow. Or I can get a lot more obligations done early so I can get a lot done in the book. Okay, well now it's 3:30 in the morning and I should probably try to sleep. Mwah. Hey, so it's actually been 2 days since I gave you an update. I had a little bit of a mental health spell that spawned from a physical health spell. So I had zero desire to be on camera. I'm fine, we're back, we're okay, we're handling it, we're locking it down. And also, I finished the book. Also, for anyone who wanted an update on the cat, where are you? I don't know where she is right now. Ivy Tortellini does not like me any more now than she did on day one, so I'm failing at my task. I actually could not stop reading this book even if I tried, which is great, especially when you're feeling a little bit down. It's really nice to have a fucking good book around to keep you distracted from your own brain. And the book was mocking me a little bit. I was dealing with the health stuff and the book kept being like, ooh, wounds heal faster in the valley. Health problems go away in the valley. Like, okay, knock knock bitch, let me in. For a bit there, I genuinely thought that the book was going to have no underlying metaphors or parallels, but lo and behold, there's actually a great lesson in here about how dangerous it is to be stuck in your own ways and to be so determined to not have an open mind that it sows seeds of chaos and danger around you. And I'm not even talking about, well, no, in a smaller way, I'm talking about Noah, but there's a bigger story here with an enemy that exemplifies it even more. And it's locked in place by a solid Nazi right-wing parallel. I'm not gonna go into much more detail than that. I will just say that the book is basically saying that people who are xenophobic have teeny, tiny little bitty brains. But speaking of Noah, he went through his character arc beautifully. He just had to get through the grief process of like his entire childhood. There are so many more Marvel references and a direct Winter Soldier call out. If you didn't know, that's my man. And speaking of Marvel, I'm gonna say this in the most vague way possible, but the ending of the book could also be seen as a Marvel reference or a Pirates of the Caribbean reference. Also, I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew I wasn't crazy. Lost was being referenced. Hallelujah. For once, I conjure up Lost references and it's not just me being insane. There's a character in this book, her name is Juliet, and I can't even tell you what her last name in the book is because that would be a spoiler for Lost. But it's the kind of Easter egg that you won't notice unless you've watched Lost 4,000 times like I have, and like Peter Klein's clearly has. I almost threw my book across the room. Finally, I found a book that is actually referencing Lost. I thought I was going crazy. I did have so many theories that were wrong as hell, which is awesome. Firstly, I did have another Lost related theory that turned out to be wrong as hell, but at least I have my Henry Gale and my Juliet, and I know that that's real. Also, at one point, I thought that the book was gonna go in the direction of my actual favorite time f***ery theme in movies of all time, but it didn't. And I say movies because I've never actually seen this particular thing done in a book before, but I'm eagerly awaiting the day when a book comes out with this particular theme, but I'm also not gonna tell you what it is because spoilers, or like anti-spoiler. If you know that that's not what's happening in here, it's kind of is a spoiler in itself. And someone better come out with a book with this particular thing in it soon, or else I'm gonna be forced to write the book myself. Ivy! Ivy! No, she still hates me. She still hates me. Oh, that was a joke, by the way. I'm not writing a book. No one wants me to write a book. I don't want me to write a book. That was a joke. Just someone please do this thing that I am not saying out loud. Read my mind. Please do it. What else did I love? Oh, there was more science talk, obviously. Oh, this clip is gonna go in and out of lighting so much. I apologize for whatever f***ery you're seeing. Light f***ery. So there was more science talk. We get so many instances of being able to see their brainstorming sessions, and I love it. We're seeing the whole process. We're seeing all the wrong guesses and the talking it out. They're letting us be scientists with them a little bit. It reminded me minorly of the last Read It or Unhaul It video I did when I was complaining that the Bridge Kingdom didn't let us into their code breaking process enough. It was like magic. We just jumped from A to Z and we didn't see any of the process. And I hated that. This book, we're there with them every step of the way. Every step of the way as they're trying to figure out where we are, when we are, what the f is going on at any given point, how to get back to their own lives, etc. Also, I got to learn new things about science. I know a good, decent amount, I would say a lot, about physical, terrestrial, biological sciences. But aside from one astronomy class that I took in college, binge watching Neil deGrasse Tyson videos, a mild to moderate obsession with the Fermi paradox and the ability to name like 4 or 5 constellations, astrophysics and space-time are not my scientific forte. That sounded horrible. Get your bike checked out. There are also somehow even more genres of time fuckery in the back half of the book. Versions of time fuckery I didn't even know existed. Versions of time fuckery I didn't know to wish for. I sat there at one point going, I asked for this. I asked for this. I asked for time in the extreme and I got it. I sat there after reading the book and, well, no, I didn't sit there. I texted my friend Sophie, who was buddy reading it with me. I texted her and told her to hurry the up and finish the book so I could talk to her about it. But I sat there feeling simultaneously so fulfilled and also so deeply wanting more. And I might be in luck because in the acknowledgements, Peter Klein says basically, hey, you know that university that they all work at? We may be hearing a lot more about that place in the future. So I'm crossing my fucking fingers. Anyway, do I even have to say this is a 5-star? This is a 5-star. It might not be a 5-star for everyone, but it's a fucking 5-star, like so deeply a 5-star. I had so much fun and I really needed a book that I had fun in at this moment in time. And that means that in this video so far, I've had a 4, a 4.5, and 2 5-stars. So I'm gonna go delete every video plan I have for the rest of the year and just put out a new reading whatever the fuck I want video every week. That's just what I have to do now, apparently. And I know I talked a lot about the science, but I'm gonna say that if you loved Project Hail Mary, you will also love this. There's science, but it's not overwhelming. There are morals and lessons, but it's not overwhelming. The book is mostly vibes and time being f***ed with. And now I know my next book should be a short, serious one if we're going off the pattern that I've been going off of accidentally. But my boyfriend flies down here to San Diego today because we have my cousin's wedding this weekend and I'm gonna let him choose my next book, but I already know that he's gonna choose Red Rising. He's not a big reader at all. He reads like maybe 4 or 5 books a year and that's just because I force him to. But I convinced him to read Red Rising last year, even though I hadn't read it yet, and he was obsessed. And now he's read the first 3 books in the series, which is huge for him. And he keeps trying to get me to read it, but I keep having video plans, so I keep putting it off. But last week, he finally started another book that I've been trying to convince him to read for months, obviously Dungeon Crawler Carl, and he's bringing it down with him. So I think it'd be fun for both of us to be reading the books we've been trying to get the other person to read for a while together. So I'll try to knock a few pages out before he gets here, and then I'll let him choose it for me later tonight. And then after the wedding, when he flies home and I'm alone down here again, I'm gonna try and knock out Agua Viva all in one go. That's what I've always wanted out of that book. I want to be alone when I read it and I want to knock it out all at once to get the full emotional impact. And then I'll have read 6 books for this video, which I've never done before. Crazy how much you read when you're reading the books that you've been wanting to read for so long. I do wish I'd been able to get to the Raven Scholar and the Mad Sisters of Essie in this video, but maybe now I'll have to do a specific video about books that remind me of the space whale scene from Treasure Planet. So if you have any recommendations for me that feel like a fever dream, that feel like that one specific scene in Treasure Planet where Jim Hawkins and Silver are sailing on their outer space pirate ship through the pod of space whales, let me know. But only recommend something to me if it has those exact vibes. I want exact vibes. If it's not specific enough, zip it. Keep it to yourself. Okay, it's time to choose my next book. I just picked up my boyfriend, Eric, from the airport.
Hello.
Hello. Eric gets to choose my next book. I've got 6 options left. Are you paying attention?
I'm listening. I'm trying to figure out the Wi-Fi.
I'll bribe you. I'll give you the Wi-Fi password if you pay attention first. Okay. Do you want to know just the names of the book and go off just vibes?
I want to go off cover and how it looks.
That's going to be a problem because half of the covers for the hardbacks, I left the covers in Oregon. I'll give you a name and a one-liner. Agua Viva. I genuinely don't know what this is about. I just know it's going to change my life. That's all I know about it. Knock Knock Open Wide, which is a woman goes on a road trip in Ireland and finds like a dead body in the road and there's something about... No. Okay. Found Audio, which is another one. This is like a fever dream thing. I don't actually know what this is about.
This has a cover on it, so it's winning already.
There's a cover. Okay, yeah. The Song of Achilles, which is about...
No.
Okay. Homophobic?
Yeah, because I know about the book.
The Mad Sisters of Essie, which is about two sisters who live in outer space and they live in an outer space whale.
Yeah. Ooh, that's cool. Actually, but no, there's a reason why I'm leaning towards the first one.
And then there's Red Rising.
Okay, it's that. It's gotta be that.
Okay.
It is that, but I also want to say Aqua Viva because we're in San Diego right now and it just feels right. It's like a Agua and Viva, like, yeah, it just feels right.
Water
and
of
also
life.
It's like 20 pages.
Yeah, it's like 80 pages,
But no, it's that, because that's the best book.
Yeah. So, like I said last night, I knew Eric was gonna pick Red Rising, and so my next book will be Red Rising. So I'm gonna edit now, and then read a little bit, and I'll get back to you. I don't know, later, goodbye.
Wait, Wi-Fi. What's the Wi-Fi?
I'm not gonna tell the Hi, it's been like a day and a half since I last talked to you and we chose Red Rising for the next book. I have not read anything in the last day and a half. I've not started on Red Rising at all, but I did go to the zoo. I went to the, well, not the zoo, I went to the wildlife park, the San Diego Safari Park. The zoo's like cousin a little further away. I went to the zoo, I wore my Rainforest Cafe shirt, and I got a giraffe hat with ears and little horns. So now that I'm home, I can actually start on Red Rising. But this was the first time that I went to a zoo with a child. One of my best friends has a kid who's like a year and a half, and she was really unsure of me at first. I've met her before, but she's a baby, she doesn't remember. She was unsure at first, but by the end we were best friends and it went really well. And we got to see the only platypus in the entire world outside of Australia. Every single other platypus lives in Australia, and then there's just one here at the San Diego Wildlife Park. So that was sick. And I could have spent like 3 whole days just sleeping in front of the platypus area, just watching him or her, them, but that was really special to be able to see the only platypus that's not in Australia. Really, really special, really cool. I will either put footage here or I already did that. Did I already do that? I don't know. If not, here it is. And then we'll start reading Red Rising, finally. Okay, bye. I am done with half of Red Rising and I need to leave now so that I'm not driving past like 1 a.m. tonight. I want to say I'll update you when I get to the hotel, but I definitely won't. After 9 hours of driving, I'm always a little up. So I guess I will update you when I'm in Oregon, and then I'll read the rest of the book and I'll update you on that. And then hopefully I'll be able to read Agua Viva. Honestly, this video is long enough as it is. Cross your fingers. Wish me luck on this long ass drive. I'll see you when I get there. Okay, so a lot has happened since that last clip. Oh, I need you to ignore everything happening behind me. We're in the middle of a spring cleaning, purging closets situation, and this is, just ignore anything that you see. We're also doing laundry, so we just have like old shit blankets on here so that the dogs can lay down without f***ing everything up. Ignore everything except for my face and body right now. A lot has happened since that last clip. I did not even begin to read Red Rising while I was in San Diego. And then I went into 4 days straight with family events, so weddings, celebrations, get-togethers, etc. So I managed to only read like the first 150 pages while I was still down in LA. And then I did the 18-hour drive from LA back to Portland. My plan was to tell you guys about the first half of the book the morning after I got back so that I could then read the rest of it. However, so I was editing part of this video that next morning and my hand suddenly went numb. Not like pins and needles falling asleep numb, like totally fully fucking gone numb. Like I could have run it over with a car, I could have broken my own fingers and I would not have felt a thing, which was alarming aside for obvious reasons. But if you didn't know, I had a stroke in 2021 and that type of numbness was the first symptom when that happened 5 years ago. So my brain went, oh my God, are we having another stroke? So I got taken to the emergency room where they did a few tests. They used a Doppler and an ultrasound on my wrists. Turns out, instead of anything neurological at all, it was vascular, which like there's a first time for everything, I guess. I had somehow managed to compress all of the arteries in my wrist and forearm during that 18-hour drive from LA to Portland. I mostly drive using my left hand only, and I guess doing that for almost 24 straight hours is not good for you. Apparently, if your arteries stay compressed for too long, you need emergency surgery. Luckily, mine were just in the beginning stages of compression. Hi. Yeah, brrr. Luckily mine were just in the beginning stages of that compression. It hadn't been happening for too long. And also I was smart enough to go straight to the ER. So let this be your warning. If anything feels out of place in your body, if you get any kind of intuition, just go get it checked out. It's better to be safe than sorry. But because I got it looked at so quickly and I went in there so quickly, luckily I didn't need surgery. That would have sucked. But I do need to wear this brace for at least a week. And I'm on some meds for a little while to help try and fix the issue from the inside. But it also needs a lot of, It also needs a lot of rest during recovery so that it doesn't get to the point where I do need surgery. I've been trying to edit a little bit and I need to take breaks like every 15 to 20 minutes. So this is gonna take longer than expected to actually get posted. Also, obviously with all of this going on, I no longer had time to read Agua Viva for this video, which sucks, but c'est la vie. I took a few days off to rest it completely. No editing, no filming, and I went up to Washington to stay in a cabin on a beautiful lake and to go to a show at my favorite venue. And that was amazing. Really, really good few days of downtime. And I also finished Red Rising. So instead of talking to you about the book in two parts like I had planned, I'm gonna have to just talk to you about the whole book in one go. And because editing is such a pain with this going on, I'm gonna be talking about it a little bit less than I normally would talk about a book so that I have less to edit. Not ideal, but again, c'est la vie. That is the situation that we're in right now, so it's the situation that we're dealing with. So I just wanted to give you that little bit of an update now. I'm going to be leaving in like 40 minutes to go see Backrooms with Peyton. Ow, egg. Ow, ow, ow. And when I get back from the movie, I will tell you all about Red Rising. See you then. Okay, I'm back from the Backrooms and I'm here to talk about Red Rising finally. And like I said, I'm not gonna talk about it as much as I normally would talk about a book because it fucking sucks to edit like this and it takes so long. So I'm sorry if I don't go into as much detail as you would like or as I usually do, but hopefully there's enough detail that we get into. There is so much happening in this book starting on page 1, and it's a crazy world to get thrust into the middle of, especially in the first few pages when you know nothing at all. So we're following Darrow. Oh my god. Okay, goodbye. We're following Darrow. He lives in an underground colony on Mars. We're on this new planet. We're in a new social structure where everyone is divided into different groups of color that dictate where you land in the social and economic hierarchy. Darrow is a red, which is the lowest rung on that hierarchy. The duty of a red is to mine this one particular element in Mars's underground tunnels. And this element is being used to terraform Mars so that humans from Earth will one day be able to come and live on Mars because we Earth so much thanks to nuclear war, I'm pretty sure. And Reds, whether they realize it or not, are treated as slaves. They aren't allowed to leave their underground area. They aren't paid. They don't have the opportunity to rise up out of the Red category. And when I say they're not allowed to go out of these, they're not allowed to go above ground at all. Darrow has never seen the sky in his entire life. He's not allowed to go above ground even for a visit. And then all the way at the top of the hierarchy are golds, who are basically looked at as gods. Everything is afforded to them. They have wealth and opportunity beyond your wildest imaginations. They're the politicians and the important people and the game changers. And Darrow, through a series of events, winds up competing in what I've seen other people describe as the Hunger Games in space. Although at some point he also has to go... Egg! Egg! Oh my god, dude. What was I saying? Hunger Games in space. Although he also basically goes through divergent testing. So there are little things pulled here and there that are familiar to me from other books based around a teenager in a dystopian setting. Oh right, Darrow is 16. You grow up hard and fast in the mines. They start working you at 13 and they marry you off at 14. And Reds die early as because the mines are a really dangerous place to live. So we get lines like this. His uncle is old at 35. 35 is old age, so that's really nice to read. So that was the synopsis. Let's talk about politics. We're in a future where all of Earth's countries, including something called the American Empire, the planet thanks to greed and nuclear war. Nationalism and division destroyed the planet, and yet they're doing similar shit in space. And they're expecting that for some reason it'll go in a different direction, except instead of nation versus nation, it's color versus color. And speaking of color, we have the obvious parallels to racism and the types of oppression that you're forced into if you're not born the right color. Not just you, but your children and your children's children and all of your descendants down the line. And so we have this clear parallel to systemic racism and multi-generational oppression. If your ancestors were Reds, you're gonna be a Red and there's virtually no way out for you. even if that society was built on the backs and by the blood of your ancestors. And that directly parallels the history of slavery in America and the crux of why we still have this huge economic disparity between white and black households in the States, which, if you're not aware, is one of the reasons why reparations have always been such an important topic of conversation. The stupid US government didn't come through on their post-slavery 40 acres and a mule promise, and then they continued to lock black American families out of methods that could have raised their economic standing throughout generations. And so now we're here over 150 years after the abolition of slavery with this race-based economic gap that white people created and then never dealt with the consequences of. So it is literally impossible to read this book, at least as a white American, without seeing it as a commentary on America's history, which makes me wonder what the obviously right-wing booktubers see when they're reading these books. I know some of them love this series. I just wish I knew the specifics of some of the cognitive dissonance that was going on in their heads as they were reading. There you go. Come here. You can stay in here, but you have to be a good girl and not try and knock over all of my shit. Okay, so we were talking about racism. Let's talk about false meritocracy next. They have this fake meritocracy going as a way to keep competition between reds and keep the attention off the golds, who are the ones who are actually keeping them in literal slavery. It's similar again to what I noted in the reformatory. Oh my god! It's similar to what I noted in the reformatory. Ouch. It's all about keeping the infighting going so that people cannot focus on the bigger picture and the real enemy. And they dangle this meaningless prize over their slaves' heads so that they'll have this false sense of importance and not focus on defeating the men in charge. Another big theme is the concept of good people versus evil people, and if there is such a thing as either of those. Darrow is infiltrating the golds to get vengeance, but he's also a bigger part of this revolution. He's important in taking down the whole system. He's kind of like the Mockingjay for the Reds, but deep down he really just wants revenge. And at one point he questions of himself, if I am a good man, then why do I want to do bad things? So we're ruminating on questions here like, are there ever really good guys in war? Are there good guys ever? Is there such a thing as a good person, or is everyone just shades of little bits of good and little bits of bad? Is everyone capable of both big good and big evil? Also, is doing bad things, smaller bad things, worth it for the sake of an overall bigger good? Everything is very complicated. Morals are very complicated. Everything is in scales of gray, which is funny for a book that's all about colors. Also, the war games were crazy. The war games took up more than half the book. I understand why people say that this is like Hunger Games in space, but there are also big differences. Their war games last a year. The goal of theirs is not for one person to kill everyone else. It's to breed the next generation of oppressors and colonizers. It's meant to create psychopaths. I don't even understand how anyone is supposed to come out of this war normal. These are the sons and daughters of the very wealthiest and most important people in this society. These are the kids who have been coddled and spoon-fed since they were born, and some of them spend an entire year taking people's eyeballs out and wearing other kids' teeth in their hair. Meow. I unfortunately do love parts of our found family already, and I say unfortunately because I know that Pierce Brown is supposedly brutal in this series with character deaths. If I'm correct on this, I think that he's the author who rolls a dice to see whether people live or die. Maybe that's someone else, but I'm too scared to Google it in case I spoil myself for further books. There was already a character death that hurt me deeply, and I only knew that character for like a quarter of a book. So that doesn't bode well for me for the rest of the series. My favorite character right now is Severo, one of the guys that Darrow is in this war with. When I was like halfway through, Eric asked if Severo was my favorite character yet, and I was like, absolutely not. At that point, all I'd really known about him was that he was kind of ugly and small and that he had killed a wolf, so I kind of hated him at the time. However, Eric knows me too well because yeah, Severo is my fucking guy. He is insane. He's like batshit crazy. He's a freak of nature. In my mind, he's Donnie from the Wild Thornberrys if Donnie was a Scottish libertarian. And he's not Scottish. In the book, he's not Scottish, but he's that type of crazy. So in my head, he's like full tilt Scottish Donnie. Anyway, 4.5 stars, and I have already picked up a copy of Golden Sun. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to read it. I'm trying to fit it into my reading schedule, but I'm foaming at the mouth to continue at this series. I loved every second of it, and I've heard that it's only going to get better from here, but I also know it's gonna devastate me. So I'm excited in 2 different ways. So that's it, guys. That's finally the end of my reading whatever the I want for my birthday video, and it's hilarious because now it's almost a month after my birthday. Although I'm glad that this video went up a little bit late because I have 2 gifts, birthday gifts that people gave me that I would not have been able to include in this video if I hadn't had to put it up a few days late. Let me show you this really quickly. So my friend Sophie buddy read God's Junk Drawer with me. We both loved it. And over this weekend while I was gone, she was like, hey, don't be worried if a package shows up for you on Monday. And I was like, what the are you talking about? And I opened the package and it was a copy of God's Junk Drawer. And I was a little confused at first. I was like, oh, thank you. You know I already had one, but thank you. And then I opened it up. She emailed Peter Clines for me. She emailed the author and had him send me a signed copy of one of my new favorite books. How fucking insane is that? How nuts is that? I didn't know you could email authors and ask for signed copies of books. I didn't know that was a thing. So Sophie, you're insane and you're perfect and I love you. So now I have 2 copies of this beautiful book and one of them has my name in it, which is crazy. This is my first ever personally signed book. Wait, no, I have The Caretaker. But aside from that, this is my 2nd ever signed personalized book with my name in it. How fucking cool is that? And then I did want to show you, this doesn't have to do with this video, but it's timely, so whatever. My boyfriend's mother and sister found a first edition of a David Attenborough book that I did not know existed. This is the first edition, The Mediterranean World and Man. Look. That's Baby David on the back. I had no idea this book existed. This is crazy. This is an absolutely insane find. But the thing that makes it even more special is that they made their own wrapping paper for me and they covered it with quotes from my favorite people and my favorite books, front and back. There's quotes on here from David Attenborough, Anthony Bourdain, Steve Irwin, Jane Goodall. I am in absolute shock and awe over the thoughtfulness. And yes, I did cry on FaceTime when I opened this. I was gonna say I didn't used to be such a crier, but that's not true. I used to be much more of a crier. And then I went through a period of time where I was just not crying at all. And then I started a better kind of therapy and I started crying again. So it's all good. These are good things. But I am just absolutely in awe of the community that I have around me. I go through some pretty weird shit sometimes. Really strange medical journey that I've been on, but having a community around me that supports and loves me in the way that they do, it makes such a huge difference in the life of someone who goes through more than their fair share of medical issues. Oh, they also know how much I love Africa and how much I'm obsessed with lions, so they found these to put on there. How absolutely batshit insane is this? I'm going to frame this wrapping paper, by the way. This will be framed in my office. So that is the end of the video. That is the end of this long 3 weeks of reading whatever the I want to read, and I'm sad that it's, hi Egg, I'm sad that it's oh, hello. I'm sad that it's over, because if you'll remember with me, in this video we have read a 4-star book, a 5-star book, a 4.5 star, a 5-star, and a 4.5 star. In what other video would I read 5 books and have nothing below a 4, and also have 2 5 stars and 2 4.5s? And knowing that I have to go from this to a video where I have to read all 600 pages of the Odyssey is really tough right now, because all I want to do is go into another reading whatever the I want video, and instead I have to read the 600-page Odyssey. That's what did I do? Why did I do this? Why have I set this up for myself? But I committed to it, so we're here now. I am gonna be going into the Odyssey. But if, if you enjoy watching me read books that I just really want to be reading, if this video does well and is a hit with the people, then maybe that means that I should fit in more videos where I'm just reading whatever the I want. Maybe I don't always have to do a theme or stick to a TBR or whatever. If the people would like me to read whatever the I want, then that means that I should do that more. Anyway, I'm gonna go start the Odyssey. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not starting it. I started Remarkably Bright Creatures. That's first, and then do Messiah, and then the Odyssey. But actually, I have to go and try and get this video edited to get it up tomorrow, hopefully. If this video is going up on a Wednesday, then I did it. But it's almost midnight. It's 11:30 p.m. on Tuesday, so who knows if that's even possible with me having to take breaks every 15 or 20 minutes when I'm editing. That's it. I'm procrastinating. If you can hear me, if you can read the subtitles, thank you for being here with me. Thank you for watching as I just read whatever the f I want. Thank you for watching this has got to be an hour-and-a-half video at this point. Thanks for watching if you're still here. I appreciate you. I love you. Goodbye. Oh. Egg says bye too. Okay, sorry. We have Logan, who's this shy, sweet kind of a guy who gets compared to Clint Kark. Anyway, she bings. Eggo. Stop it.